With Bhagavatam early in the morning, right? So, Hare Krishna Matais, welcome all of you to start by chanting Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवर धारी जय गिरिवर धारी जय यशोदानंद जय प्रजजन रंजन जय यशोदानंद जय प्रजजन रंजन जय यशोदानंदन जय प्रजजन रंजन जय यशोदानंदन जय प्रजजन रंजन जय यमुना तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय प्रभुपाद की जय गो हरि बोल जगन्नाथ बलदेव रामायण की जय नरसिंह भगवान की जय पंचतत्व की जय श्री गोस्वामी की जय गुरु परंपरा की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की श्री गुरुदेव गौरी बोल ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of God, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So, welcome all of you, Prabhuji's Matajis, for and keeping up the appointment with Krishna today. So, today we'll be discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, the next canto. So, till the last Saturday, it was second canto. Third canto, we are starting from today, in the first chapter, in the first half, that is up to verse number 22. I will be taking. So, let us start. Actually, we will be the 22 verses are there, but we'll recite the 16th verse, which is the most important verse in this chapter. So, let's recite this verse. 3:1:16. Swayam dhanurdvari nidhaya mayam भ्रातु पुरोपरमसुताडितोऽपि सयेत्तमत्युल्बन गतव्यतो याद् पुरमानयानः स्वयं धनुर्द्वारि निधाय मायाम् भ्रातुः पुरोमर्मसुताडितोऽपि गतव्यतो याद् पुरमानयानः स्वयं धनुर्द्वारि निधाय मायाम् भ्रातुः पुरोमर्मसु ताडितोऽपि गतव्यतो याद् पुरमानयानः. Anybody wants to recite? Prabhu Mataji can try.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. May I Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. What?
स्वयं धनुर्धारि निधानमायं भ्रातु पुरोमर्मसुताडितोऽपि स एत्थमत्युं बाणकर्णबाणैः कर्तव्यतो या दुरुमानयानः. हरे कृष्ण.
May I Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
स्वयं धनुर्द्वारि निधाय मायां भ्रातुः पुरोमर्मसुताडितोऽपि स इत्थमतुल्य बणकर्णबाणैर्गतव्यथुयातरुमानयानः. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go to the word to word meaning synonyms. Swayam, he himself. Dhanuhu, Dwari, bow on the door. Nidhaya, keeping. Mayam, the external nature. Bhratuhu, brothers. Puraha, from the palace. Marmasu, in the core of the heart. Taditaha, being afflicted. Api, in spite of. Saha, he, Vidura. Ittam, like this. Ati ulbana, severely. Karna, ear. Bana, he, by the arrows. Katavyataha, without being sorry. Ayat, exited. Uru, great. Manayanaha, so thinking. Translation by Ki Jai. Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the eternal energy to be supreme. I'll not read the purport, we will be discussing throughout this class. Om Gyanatamara Andasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. शीतैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदाधिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगणरघुनाथमितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणलिता श्रीविशाखान्तांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शबानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्नाम् अन्यां च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणानमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् नमो विष्णुविष्णुविष्णुपुत्रे श्रीमति महाशिवस्वामिति नामने नमो विष्णुविष्णुविष्णुपुत्रे श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने ऋषिकेश जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत हरे कृष्ण So Hare Krishna, Bruce Matajis. So this canto, the first chapter is entitled Questions by Vidura. So he starts here by the first. Now Shukadeva Goswami said, and here Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, right? He said, after renouncing his prosperous home, entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi. Then comes another wonderful verse. In fact, in this chapter is so beautiful. See, in the second verse, Yadvayam mantra kridvo Bhagavana Kileshwaraha Pauravendra Graham Hitva Praviveshat Praviveshatmasat Kritam. What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. See, when Parikshit Maharaj begins to inquire about the meeting of Vidura and Maitreya, Shukadeva Goswami begins to explain how Vidura left the royal household of the Kurus in Hastinapura and went on pilgrimage. So this verse, just now we read, what else is there to say about the residential house? See, in this verse, Srila Prabhupada translates the mantra krit as minister. See, the word mantra means one which liberates our mind. Mantra. And Lord Krishna always made the Pandavas free of all miseries by his good advice and counsel. Correct. So the Pandavas were very surrendered and also malleable. Malleable means they were adaptable to any situation. They were surrendered and malleable devotees of the Lord. It always absorbed in his thoughts. These are very important points to understand. Surrendered, malleable, and absorbed in the thought. So much so that many times when Krishna went to their house, that is Ravivesh, we just saw in the last line. Ravivesh on his own sweet will, as if it were his own, as his own house, Atmashat. So Prabhupada, in the wonderful purport, he says, according to the Gaudiya Achintya Beda Veda Tattva philosophy, anything which satisfies the senses of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna is also Sri Krishna. For example, Sri Vrindavan Dham is not different from Sri Krishna. Tad Dhama Vrindavanam, right? Because at Vrindavana, the Lord enjoys the transcendental bliss of his internal potency. Similarly, the house of the Pandavas was also the source of transcendental bliss for the Lord. It is mentioned here that the Lord identified the house with his own self. Thus, the house of the Pandavas was as good as Vrindavana. See, even the mundane world, when the host, when somebody calls you to his house, so when the host of the house is very welcoming, the guest who comes, he feels at home, even in the house of the host, correct? But when the host is duplicit or behaves in a rude manner, the guest would choose to leave the house immediately. But in the case of devotees like Pandavas, they very well know that Krishna is Akhileshwara, is Lord of everything. So such pure devotees very well know that the real owner of the residence is Krishna. And they are just like the trustees here. So in that mood, they always think of ways and means of pleasing Krishna, glorifying Krishna all the time. That is why whether whether Pandavas stay in the hut, they are in the forest or in palaces, in Indraprastha or Hastinapura. See, the Lord did not mind about the place, but always voluntarily went to meet them wherever they were. See, in the pastime of Akshay Patra, there also we find Krishna goes and tells Draupadi that he's hungry and asks to serve him food. So wonderful to hear, right? So when the Lord came as peace messenger to Hastinapura, externally the Kauravas gave him very grand reception. They gave him a lot of wonderful gifts, but never agreed to Krishna's proposal for peace. They were stubborn on proceeding with war. So by their disobedience, they dispraised the Lord. That's why when they invited him, very nice sweet quoted words, for a sumptuous meal in their palace, Krishna refused by saying that he was neither hungry nor could he see any goodwill in them. But see, the Lord immediately turned to Vidura and said that he would like to go to his home immediately and eat whatever Vidura gives, as he was feeling very hungry. So he happily entered Vidura's very humble place, right? As if it is his own, and rested there, keeping his legs on Vidura's lap. How wonderful you will feel. So feeling ecstatic, no? By Lord's touch, Vidura began to massage Lord's feet, legs, and in that mood of ecstatic love, Vidura's wife, while offering bananas to the Lord, gave him the banana skin and threw away the fruit. But still the Lord accepted it and said that it tasted like nectar. So if we are a duplicit in nature, doing some, telling something, doing something, foolishly think everything we own as mine, offensive to devotees and disobedient to the Lord, then the Lord will never enter our house, even if you offer him the best of boga. Whereas when one is simple and straightforward, always serving the Lord and his devotees without any pretension, then the Lord enters the house on his own as if it is his own house. So Krishna, see, he was visiting Vidura's house as well as the Pandava's house out of his own sweet will. So, but Vidura happily left the palace. See, the point is, Vidura happily left the palace to visit pilgrim places when Duryodhana ill-treated him with very harsh words. Prabhupada says, thus the house of the Pandavas was as good as Vrindavana. And Vidura should not have given up that place of transcendental bliss. Because Krishna was also coming there, right? Therefore, the reason for his quitting, Vidura's reason for quitting the house was not exactly family misunderstanding. In fact, Vidura took the opportunity to meet Maitreya Rishi and discuss transcendental knowledge. So, for a saintly person like Vidura, any disturbance due to worldly affairs is insignificant. Such disturbances no, are sometimes favorable for higher realization. And therefore, Vidura took advantage of a family misunderstanding in order to meet Maitreya Rishi. See, many times, even in our own lives, there might be places wherein we would have felt very comfortable or convenient to stay and do devotional service. But by providential arrangement, we might have to move out to different place due to some disturbance. Such disturbances should not affect our progress in devotional service. In fact, we should take it as an opportunity to meet saintly people in other places and simply move on. But when we don't do this and are stuck to that place, we become more miserable. So, following the footsteps of Vidura, we should always practice to see Krishna's hand in any such disturbances. So, what is actually Vrindavan? Prabhupada says, either Vrindavana or anywhere else. Wherever Krishna is heard, that is Vrindavan. So, today we are hearing Krishna Katha. Krishna is, that is Vrindavan. Not that Vrindavan is limited with a certain space. So, Vrindavan is transcendental. Krishna says, no to Narada, Tatra Dashtami Narada, Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhaktaha. Krishna says, I stay there where my pure devotees chant about me. Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhaktaha. So, if you become pure devotees and if you chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you can create Vrindavana anywhere, any part of the world. Wherever you are, it is Vrindavan. Prabhupada says many times, he has written to one Bhakta also. He said, wherein Prabhupada says, I was staying in Vrindavana already, but I left Vrindavana and I'm in America now. But for me, it is Vrindavana because I am always with Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and chanting. See, you don't have to run to that patch of land. That should be clear in our mind. I have to die. I want to die in Vrindavana. So I have created Vrindavana here. Vrindavana is continuous remembrance of Krishna. What is Vrindavana? Vrindavana is continuous remembrance of Krishna. That's why Lord Brahmaji prays in 10:14:3. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So, irrespective of disturbances which keep coming in our lives, if we simply engage our senses in hearing and remembering and obeying Krishna, then that place becomes Vrindavan, and the Lord would love to stay with us. See here now, Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukadeva Goswami, the third verse. Where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and his grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us. He's asking questions. The fourth, he says, Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to his grace Rishi Maitreya must have been very purposeful, on the highest level, and approved by learned circles. So now, Sutta Goswami, in the fifth verse, he says, the great sage Shukadeva Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus, being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively. What important point. So, whenever we are hearing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, wherever we are teaching Krishna Katha, you should hear the topics attentively. It's hardly about 45 minutes to 1 hour, right? So that we don't have to divert ourselves to our mobile and calling others, speaking to them, and doing so many other activities. No, we should organize our work in the day in such a way that 45 minutes to 1 hour, we are fully attentively listening, rapt attention. Then it will go inside the heart and touch your heart. So the sixth verse is another wonderful verse. Shishukovacha Gidatu Raja Susutana Sadhun Pushnanna Dharmena Vinashta Drishtihi Bhraturaya Tasya Sutan Vibandhun Pravesha Laksha Bhavane Dadaha. Sukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. And thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. So it is very important in spiritual life that we should not be misdirected, especially stray away from spiritual master's instructions. See, the basic tendency of the conditioned soul is to enjoy and have sense gratification, which we have already experienced for so many lives. And my Guru Maharaj used to say, although we have gone at least once through the 84 lakh species of life, still living the irony is that neither we understand them nor we realize them. We still falsely believe that this is the only life for us. So Prabhupada, in the wonderful purport of 1188 of Bhagavatam, he says, the secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. So it is very essential that a disciple must be very, very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. The reason for our not following the instructions of spiritual master is very nicely given in this verse 316, which we just read, where Sukadeva Goswami is telling, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. What a beautiful impious desires. See, the pure devotee Vidura, as a wonderful spiritual master, was instructing Dhritarashtra again and again not to fall in the trap of nourishing his dishonest sons. But Dhritarashtra was spiritually blind, physically blind also and spiritually blind also to those instructions, and the result is completely havoc of his entire dynasty. The reason given in is that Dhritarashtra became blind spiritually under the influence of impious desires. Any desire other than the desire to serve Guru and Krishna is an impious desire. You would ask the question, what is impious desire, right? Any desire other than this desire to serve Guru and Krishna is an impious desire. Therefore, we should be careful enough to understand the subtle point and be careful in executing our devotional service. So the phrase, impious desire to nourish his dishonest sons, is worth meditating. In our case, our impious desires arise from our mind. Our material mind is always dishonest because it always shows us material things. It is always demands nourishment of impious desires. Unfortunately, we allow our mind to control us all the time. And false ego is next door. And therefore, mind in association with false ego are the dishonest sons of the spirit soul within us. And it influences our intelligence to completely get polluted and blinded. So the result is havoc of our spiritual life. We do not care for the instructions of Guru and we do whatever we like. Therefore, it is incumbent on our part to be very careful that we don't get blinded by these desires and start acting under the influence of our most dishonest sons like mind and false ego. So let us see one, how to get rid of the first and foremost dishonest son, that is the mind. We should sincerely endeavor not to pamper the mind. This can be done by remembering the words from 5th canto, 11th chapter, 17th verse, 5, 11, 17 in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. So although it is not factual, mind actually it is not factual, we cannot see that, right? But it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. So do this with great care. By this, we can conquer, get rid of the dishonest son mind. The second dishonest son is the false ego. So how to get rid of that? So devotional life is like a razor edge. When you're shaving the razor edge, any inattentiveness will create havoc in spiritual life. When you're cutting, suddenly then it cuts and blood comes, right? So there was a question to my Guru Maharaj long back. Once one of my Prabhus, how to avoid personal glory. How to avoid personal glory. See, Prabhuji had honestly inquired as to how we can avoid feelings of pride while doing service and how to remember Krishna always. So, appreciating the Prabhu's honesty, Guru Maharaj had replied with great compassion that this attitude of seeking name and fame in devotional service is unchaste behavior and that it is abominable. He said, the body that you have got is only made up of stool and worms. And you want others to be impressed with that? Can you imagine the madness? When you perform devotional service, what is the goal? In all festivals, we have to run around and work hard. But it is not really about the externals. We have to internalize. We have to intensely remember Krishna. It takes practice. See, the show has to go on for the masses. But the real, see, all the festivals, Janmashtami, everything, does go for the masses. But the real festival is when the mind remembers Krishna. The real festival is when the mind remembers Krishna. That is the real festival. And daily we can do that. We don't have to make it known to others, but we can be intense in our remembrance. See, we should not be influenced by the impious desires and blindfolded by dishonest sons of mind and false ego. There's a beautiful verse spoken by Shankaracharya in Guru Ashtakam. The translation is, body is handsome, wife is attractive, fame spread far and wide, wealth enormous, and stable like Mount Meru. But what consequence are all these? The mind is not riveted in devotion to the lotus feet of Guru. Really, of what use is all this? Of what use? Of what use? He says, Tata Kim, Tata Kim, Tata Kim. So the seventh verse, the king did not forbid his son Dushasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast. In the eighth, he says, Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by the Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. Because it was a rightful claim, but he refused. In the ninth, Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world. And although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. King Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Let us see one more. See, the selfish behavior, right? Always force the living entities to forget the finer elements of human behavior. You know, the finer element of human behavior is definitely based on acceptance of the supreme truth that the material manifestation is temporary. But almost everyone, with the exception of a few rare souls, accept this temporary manifestation as all in all. And that is the example of Dhritarashtra. See, from our behavior, the ignorance has got to be completely eradicated. The temporary nature of the middle manifestation should always be clear in front of our eyes, so that we may not commit blunders in our behavior with others. The result of the greatest blunder of Dhritarashtra was the Kurukshetra war. See, what more disaster you want? However hard we try, we cannot change the eternal truth. The eternal truth is that this material world is temporary. However hard we try, we cannot change it to permanent. So from this transcendental vision, our so-called selfish behavior appears foolish to sober souls. How unfortunate Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana must be, right? Krishna was directly coming to them for peace. But as it is rightly said in this verse, 319, Shata Punya Lesha. Shata Punya Lesha means they were completely bereft of the last farthing of the past pious works. They were so unfortunate that their current life's pious activities were already nil. You just simply understand, if Krishna had to do something to reduce their punishment by considering if there was any balance of good activities from their past life, that was also zero. So they're bound to be doomed, unfortunately, beyond limits. See, as long as we are Kshata Punya Lesha, we cannot hear the inner voice of Krishna as Paramatma. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are Krishna's words and they are not different from him. So we should take them very seriously, study sincerely, and obey his words by following them in our lives. That is the way to please Krishna. So obeying Krishna's instructions and Guru's instructions are the only ingredients for success in spiritual life. So the message in this purport of 319, last lines, he says, the message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it's just the opposite to the non-devotees. Sugar candy is always sweet to a healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to a person suffering from jaundice. So in the 10th, he says, when Vidura was invited by his elder brother Dhritarashtra for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state. 11th, Vidura said, now he is giving a counsel to Dhritarashtra. You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies, and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him. The 12th, I'm going quickly because we'll discuss a few of the verses, right? See, Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen. All the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members and the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is the Lord. Here he says, you are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. See, here a good son is called Apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifice to the please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This system is prevalent in India. After the death of his father, the son goes to offer sacrifices at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifice unto Lord Vishnu's feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of God Vishnu, and Duryodhana was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. How then could he protect his father? Vidura advised Dhritarashtra to get rid of such an unworthy son as Duryodhana as soon as possible if he was at all anxious to see the good of his family. So according to this moral instruction of Chanakya Pandita, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. A physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from their sockets so that one can be relieved of the constant trouble. Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be a source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra, as foreseen by Vidura. Vidura therefore rightly advised his eldest brother to get rid of this source of trouble. Dhritarashtra was wrongly maintaining such personified offense and the mistaken impression that Duryodhana was a good son, able to liberate his father. What a great purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, while speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle, Shakuni. It is said, the purport is, it is said that the big giving, very nice point Prabhupada says, said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry. Correct? No, if we go and tell to a non-devotee asking about, telling him about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, coming to programs, anything, he gets angry, right? Just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venom poison. So Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up by all respectable persons. But Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana in his nefarious acts. 15th he said. See how harsh the words were in the 15th verse. Just listen to this. This is Duryodhana after Vidura gave good counsel to Dhritarashtra, wherein Duryodhana also heard this. See how angry he became. He asked, now he's telling, who asked him to come here? The son of a kept mistress. He is so crooked that he spies in the interests of enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. What a difficult, the statement is so powerful, right? Anger personified, Duryodhana. So let us see now, which we recite the 16th verse. So these two are linked together. We just recited this verse, right? Now we'll discuss where he says, no, 16, thus being pierced. See, the previous sentence, statement was given by Duryodhana to Vidura. Just generally he said, but it was focused on Vidura, his uncle. So thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door, quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. So 1:3:1:16 is a very, very, very important verse. You can learn a lot of lessons. We will discuss in detail some of the points we can take out from this. See, every time when we are in difficulty in our material life, we have to remember this verse. Not only remember this verse, but we have to understand why this verse is so practical for all of us. See, we may argue that this verse is meant for pure devotees. So one of the Prabhu asked Guru Maharaj, Maharaj, this verse is very high here. And Srila Prabhupada uses the word pure devotee. So who are pure devotees? We are not pure. Guru Maharaj said, it is true, you are not pure. But all others except you are pure. So just see, he said, just because you are not pure does not mean you grab everyone and put them in the same category as you. Even in deciding who is pure and not pure, we have the grabbing tendency. We grab everyone and say, I am not pure, so you're also not pure. So let us all sit together and be impure. So this grabbing tendency is very bad because when we try to grab, no, then we have mortgage our intelligence. We all know what mortgage is, right? When we buy a house, we take mortgage and pay for the loans. That we practically sell our soul to the bank. Because we cannot recognize the greatness of the devotees, we think everyone is as bad as us. We have mortgaged our intelligence because we have lost the good sense to understand that everyone is an exalted devotee. The best example of a great devotee showing us practical lesson is actually Vidura. See, Vidura is actually the most exalted personalities because he is non-different from Yamaraj. By Krishna's arrangement, Yamaraj's desire to take part in Krishna Leela was actually fulfilled. Therefore, he became Vidura. Vidura was born not as the higher queen's son, but he is actually the son of a maidservant. So, if we look at Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, Vidura materially ranks the lowest, but spiritually he is the highest. So, this is how very often in this world we judge everyone by their material standings. But we forget that a devotee who has no material standing, he could have the highest spiritual standing. We didn't have that capacity. So Shukadeva Goswami is explaining in this chapter that Yudhishthira Maharaj was such a great king that he had no enemies. Ajata Shatru. Yet for such a person who had no enemies, the greatest enemy of Yudhishthira was Duryodhana. When someone has no enemy, it means he's an exalted individual. If someone considers such an Ajata Shatru as an enemy, then he is considered to be the most envious in Shastras, and that is Duryodhana. See, Duryodhana could not take it that the Pandavas were constantly protected, that no matter how many plans he devised with his father Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra was not only physically blind, but spiritually also bankrupt and blind. Together, father and son planned so many ways to somehow or the other keep off the Pandavas. So Bhagavatam says that despite all the attempts to kill them, Krishna always protected the Pandavas. And when matters came to such a point that Dushasana, Duryodhana, and Dhritarashtra were told by Krishna, you please stop this and give back what is rightfully belonging to the Pandavas. Duryodhana said, the famous statement, right? I am not even going to part land which is of the size of the needle's piercing. This is the envy and greed that Duryodhana had. So when Krishna tried and he himself was not successful, because Duryodhana refused to listen to Krishna, Vidura was called by Dhritarashtra council as he was considered a very wise man. So Vidura came and he told Duryodhana straight on his face that you should not do this. What you are doing is totally against all principles of religion. Then he told Dhritarashtra, why are you maintaining sin personified? Who is in the form of Duryodhana? Duryodhana was there, and he's telling Dhritarashtra, why do you still listen to such a personality? He's so sinful and so envious of the Pandavas that his envy and sinful nature will be the end of your dynasty. And you, like a foolish man, you are following in his footsteps. You become equally guilty. Vidura spoke like that. And in front of Duryodhana, he told his brother, please stop listening to this man. Do not hear him anymore. Then he became silent. But Duryodhana had become extremely angry. He became so upset. Bhagavatam tells us that at that point of time, he spoke very loudly the whole assembly. He said, who has asked this man Vidura to come here? Who has asked him to speak? Who is Vidura? He's just the son of a kept mistress. He's so crooked, he's spying in the interest of our enemies, the Pandavas and Krishna. But he's living like a dog in this house. He's living like a prostitute in this house. Why? Because he's living of us. And he's very nicely spying for the enemy camp. What can he say which is correct? Instead of giving him so much support, what we should do is to toss him out of the palace immediately. And we should leave him with only his breath, nothing else. How harsh statement, right? Just see the force and envy of Duryodhana towards Vidura. Being such an exalted devotee, always remembering Krishna, performing pure devotional service, and always protecting the Pandavas as they grew up, trying to help them in position of difficulty, putting himself at risk. Now, at the end of all that sacrifice, what does he gain? He's told that he's kept Mr. Son. He's told he's of no value. He's told that he should be thrown out and beaten until his breath alone is left. Imagine if we were Vidura, and after all that scolding and insult, how would we feel? Just ask ourselves. In fact, our Guru Maharaj tell, he said, you put yourself in Vidura's shoes and just see how you would feel. See, in congregations, when one devotee says something, we become so sensitive and become hurt. How much hurt we must be if we were Vidura? We would be thinking, Krishna, what is the value of all the devotional service? If after all this devotional service, I am spoken in such insulting words, how many of us had been in such position like this? Maybe not to the point of being confronted with a person like Duryodhana. Duryodhana is grade 1 villain. He may not get grade 1 villain anymore in Kali Yuga. But even as devotees, sometimes we feel so pained, so hurt by the words of other devotees. Sometimes we say, oh Prabhu, you spoke to me like that, and I'm feeling, Mataji, you said like this. They were so harsh and piercing. They cut through my heart. And like that, we become discouraged in devotional service. We walk around saying, he is to be blamed. She is to be blamed. That is how all the politics in the congregation start. Because we become very hurt by what others speak. Is it wrong to be hurt? Bhagavatam says no, because Vidura was hurt. This is the beauty of this verse. He was pierced by the arrows. What arrows were there? Duryodhana did not shoot any arrow, but these arrows were the arrows of the words. Have you met persons whose tongue is sharper than the knife? Whose tongue can cut through the butter? When they speak, everyone is just cut to pieces. That is how Duryodhana was. And this quality of Duryodhana is considered in Bhagavad Gita as parushyam. The ability to be harsh in speaking is not a divine quality. It is a demonic quality. If you all had the opportunity of being with great saintly persons, you could have seen when you see all the Maharaj. In fact, last Sunday, His Holiness Vedyas Maharaj was here in our area, in our center, in Shesaripun temple. When we meet them and have the darshan, how pleasing they are, right? They have the capacity to speak very sweet words, and it's fire also at the same time. This is the beauty of the acharyas, because they are pure devotees of the Lord. They don't have any motive in their heart. They have only motive is full of love and well-wishing for the people around. That is why how a great devotee can touch and inspire others. Not by parushyam, the word spoken by Duryodhana. See, the point of this verse is, how did Vidura react to these harsh words? So that is what we must take back with us today. Vidura was pierced by the arrows of Duryodhana's words, and it went through his ears that afflicted him in the core of his heart. See, Bhagavatam tells us that he really felt pain up to the core, but his reaction is very important because it shows us what we must do if we are in such a situation. He placed his bow on the ground because he realized now that he had been in the palace all along for two purposes. First, to protect the Pandavas, and secondly, to somehow or the other speak good advice to his brother Dhritarashtra. But now he realized that his brother will never hear him because Duryodhana is too powerful and too influential. So what did he do? He decided immediately, without any form of attachment, to put down his bow. And when he put down his bow, what was he feeling? He was not sorry. He was hurt, but he was not sorry. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport. So this is very important for us to carry back. See, we may become hurt by the actions of others, but we should not become sorry for ourselves. Very often, when we are hurt, we do not feel sorry for anyone, but we become very sorry for ourselves. We pat ourselves. No, it's okay. Do not worry. You're good. You're a good person. Somebody has just hurt you. Nothing is going to happen. You're actually right. These rascals, they do not know who you are. They do not know your greatness. This is how our mind tells us. Mind tells us you are a pure devotee, but nobody knows that. The fact is, nobody knows that because actually we are not pure devotees. But in mind, we start feeling sorry for ourselves and we think that I am the one being persecuted. Nobody else is suffering except I. Like this, each one of us start feeling. And we become the object or victim of someone else. But we do not realize all the time while we are being hurt by others, how much we are hurting others. We have no idea of that. See, with our sharp tongue and sharp words, how many times we have afflicted the core of somebody's heart? We don't think about it. See, we have to tolerate. See, you have no idea how much the other person is tolerating. See, we don't see that part, right? We consider or explore that. We don't consider that because we do not explore that. We miss the greatness of being a devotee, and that is why Vidura is exalted. We think we are tolerating others, but how others are tolerating us. So Vidura, he was hurt in the core of his heart. Why? Because Prabhupada explains in his lectures that devotees by nature are compassionate. Their heart is by nature very soft. So it is natural for them to feel hurt. Nothing wrong. But feeling hurt should not translate into becoming sorry for ourselves. So when we become sorry for ourselves, we have crossed that line and become attached. And once we become attached to our body, our mind, then we are not attached to Krishna. So this is a very important point and a very important line. Vidura did not cross. He did not cross this line. That is why he is a great devotee. He was hurt, but he was not sorry. Why? The reason is he considers the acts of external energy to be superior. See, one who is really fixed in devotional service, when he is hurt by anything or anyone, he does not feel sorry for himself, because when one performs devotional service, automatically two things come to him: costless knowledge and detachment. That's what Bhagavatam 127 says. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janetyashu Vairagyam Jnanam cha yat ahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires costless knowledge and detachment from the world. So Vidura is a living example of this. So this verse we have heard so many times, but our practice of this verse is really tested when we are hurt in this material world. Only when we are pierced by harsh words, harsh actions, then we can see the test. Are we really detached, or are we extremely attached to ourselves? So Vidura lived this point because he performed devotional service completely depending on Krishna and not on Duryodhana and not on Dhritarashtra. He was not a servant of Dhritarashtra. He was not a servant of Duryodhana even. Though he stayed in that palace, his mood was he was a well-wisher of father and son. That is how we must live in this world. If you do not want to be hurt in your relationship, the way to live is the way of Vidura. Be a well-wisher to everyone, but do not become too attached and dependent on everyone. Once we become dependent on someone, then inevitably there is detachment, no detachment, right? Then our devotion becomes motivated. How motivated? See, now I am coming for a devotion service, seva in this yatra, maybe in the program, because so and so a person, because of this person I am coming. If that person is not there, I won't come. If this is our mood, we have missed the point. We are coming for the program to glorify Krishna. We are coming for the festivals to glorify Krishna. We are coming here to glorify the greatness of Jagannath Baladev Soramai. We have no other business. Any other business, why we are coming becomes material. Any other business becomes material. It becomes motivated, and therefore our devotions becomes interrupted. You see the link? The link is very, very important. Vidura's devotional service was not affected when the harsh words were spoken to him. But for us, the constant challenge is when someone is harsh, we lose the courage. We become discouraged. We lose the morale. When you do that, we are performing the greatest disservice to our Guru, to Prabhupada and Krishna, because we forget why we should be here. We are here to be well-wisher of everyone. If they do not want our well-wishing, it does not matter. We continue with our devotional service. That's all. That is what Vidura did, and that is why he is peaceful, and that is what Arjuna did in Bhagavad Gita. See, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna gave so many arguments, why you should not fight. And all his arguments were founded on only one quality of attachment to kinsmen, aunt, uncle, cousins, right? But Krishna told Arjuna that he is not killing anyone, that Arjuna is not killing anyone. That's what he says, 11.33, Krishna says, therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Vidura comes to the same conclusion. Which Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, there is no one in this battlefield whose destiny has not been created and ended by me. Then Arjuna might ask, if you are killing Krishna, then why must I stand here? What is the point? There is no value. Krishna says, no, your supreme value is that you become instrument. Just become an instrument. So once when Prabhu asked my Guru Maharaj, what is the value of being an instrument? He said, give a good example. When someone takes a knife and kills another person, do they hang the man who killed with the knife, or do they hang the knife? They will prosecute the man who was holding the knife, but the knife is free. The most the knife will suffer is it will become an exhibit in the court. But after that, the knife is free. Now you understand the value of being instrument? That is, if anything happens that is not good, Krishna takes the blame and you become instrument. But if anything becomes very good, then Krishna gives all credit to the devotee. See, Krishna won the war for the Pandavas actually, but who got all the garlands? Arjuna. It is Arjuna who is exalted as the greatest warrior in the battlefield. But who was the greatest warrior actually? Krishna. How many times Krishna saved Arjuna's life on the battlefield? With all the transcendent cheating, with pushing of the chariot so that the arrow hits, does not hit his mukut, right? He saved by sending the clouds in the sky so that Kaurava army thought, all right, now we can put down our arms. Jayadatta is saved now because the end of the day has come. Krishna became the supreme weatherman and he made forecast for the dark clouds so that it became night. And at the end, just moves the cloud away and Arjuna shoots the arrow to kill the Jarasan. Sorry, Jayadatta. So who won the war? Krishna. But who got all glorification for winning the war? Arjuna. So being an instrument is the best position for the living entity. If anything goes wrong, Krishna accepts the blame. But if everything goes right, Krishna gives the full credit to the devotee. In both ways, we are not in the attachment. That is why Arjuna and Vidura, they were not sorry, but they have been hurt. There is nothing wrong in being hurt. It is human. But if you take it to the next stage and become sorry for yourself, then you become detached. So in order not to be sorry, even when we are hurt, we should remain detached. To remain detached, we should become instruments in Krishna's hands and be everyone's well-wisher. And to become an instrument in Krishna's hands, we should become dependent on Krishna. That's why in 18.57, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So this is the mood that Vidura had Krishna. So Krishna tells Arjuna, you please depend on me in all circumstances. Do not depend on yourself because you will die. Depend on someone who is always eternal. So the first thing we do is to follow these instructions. Vidura followed this. He depended on Krishna and not on Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana. Because he was dependent on Krishna, Buddhi Yogam Upashritya, his intelligence took shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. And because he was intelligent to take shelter of the Lord's feet, lotus feet, Krishna gave him full remembrance of himself even at the point of difficulty. See, it is very difficult for us to remember Krishna in tough situations. When good times come, it is easy to remember Krishna. Sometimes it is easy to forget also. But when bad times are there, we do not remember Krishna favorably. We do not remember Krishna favorably. Very often we are so disturbed, we cannot take up Japamala to chant. When we are separation, when we are sick, that is the day of our sadhana should be increasing. But that is the day our sadhana is affected. But Vidura tells us, if we depend on Krishna, Krishna gives us the intelligence to become Mat-chittaha, to be conscious of Krishna. That's why in the purport of 18.58, Krishna says, Mat-chitta sarva durgani, but prasada tarishyati. If you become conscious of me, in the translation it says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. So if we are in difficulty in jobs, in family life, in work situation, we just depend on Krishna. When you depend on Krishna, then Krishna takes care. But if we cannot remember Krishna, he says in 18.58 again, if you, however, do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So Duryodhana did not depend on Krishna. Whom did he depend upon? He depended on himself. So when Arjuna and Duryodhana went to see Krishna on the eve of battlefield, Krishna had already declared that I am not going to fight. I'll be neutral. I have only two things to offer. I have myself as chariot driver, or I offer the entire army of the dynasty of Vishnu. You can take either of them. So they went in the landing. Duryodhana was, he said, I'll sit by the side of where the head is, right? Now Krishna was lying down like this. And Arjuna came, he sat near the lotus feet. So when somebody opens their eyes, who is first they say? You see the person in near the feet, right? So you saw Arjuna. Duryodhana was behind. He thought Krishna will ask him what he wants. But he was afraid. He was nervous. But Arjuna asked, I don't want anything else. I only want you yourself. So Duryodhana thinking, this is a foolish fellow. He wants only Krishna. What can Krishna do? I will have the full army. So this is how, no? We are not. So are we depending on Krishna when everything is gone? See, when your time is up, what is left? It's only your remembrance of Krishna that matters. Nothing else. So towards the end of, see, we should only remember Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. We must see his hand, particularly in matters of all this when we are hurt, no? We should remember Krishna, not get angry with the devotee. Not fire the devotee and hurt him. But what we should do? Just walk away from the situation and become peaceful. See, Vidru walked away from the situation in which he was hurt, and he had no regret in his heart. Otherwise, we are always living with the regret, no? See, 90% of our life is spent regretting. I wish I did that. I wish I was like that. I wish I had that thing. I see someone and I wish he was like me or I was like him. We're always regretting. But devotees do not regret because we do not live in the past. Living in the past means bhutkal, right? Ghosts. But devotees are not ghosts. Because people are like haunted people, always thinking of the past. Once upon a time, I was a great devotee. I did nice preaching. I did so much book distribution. If you only knew what a great devotee I was. Everything is past time. Now we are nothing. What is the point of thinking of the past? What we are doing now is also becoming past already. So why do we reside in the past? Future is imagination. Past is over. The only thing that we have is the present. So how much urgency we must put now on devotional service because the word now has become past again. So daily a devotee must have the same urgency that Vidura had. The moment this matter happened, Vidura was hurt, but he did not waste his time. He was not sorry because he considered this to be the act of Krishna. It was the external energy of Krishna. The Prabhupada writes in the purport of 3.27 for Bhagavad Gita, the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. So we think when we are in the program, we think it is. See, when we come, so suppose when we think when you go to the program in the temple, Srishadapuram temple, we think we are now in the program. We think it is our legs that have brought us to the program. Yes, legs are immediate cause, but the remote cause is our sincerity, and remote cause of all causes is whether Krishna sanctions for us to be here. Whether Krishna sanctions that I can speak. It's not all based on what I can do. It is what Krishna allows. So when something has happened to us that is bad in mental calculation, we should think like Vidura. It's not anyone else. No, it is Krishna. By doing that, Vidura did not waste time. Vidura did not waste time. Otherwise, he'll be sitting and thinking, why Duryodhana spoke to me like that? I also took care of him when he was saying, I also prayed for them. I was their well-wisher. How many times we have thought like this for days and days because we are hurt and we are sorry. We keep thinking, we lament. That way we waste the time. What did Vidura do? Enough is enough. Now Krishna has done. It is Krishna who wants me to stop here and I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to be going for Yatra. That is what he did. So he took it as an opportunity for him to get close to Krishna. He saw it as the mercy of Krishna and therefore he was not sorry. And a similar example, greatness of Parikshit Maharaj. See, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, what did he do? He did not cry. He did not curse Krishna. If I was cursed to die in 7 days and if I had been a devotee for a few years, the first person I will go become very angry is with Krishna. Krishna, how can you do this to me? After all, I have given, after all the programs, after all the lack of sleep, Mangala Arati, thinking that way I waste my time. But Parikshit Maharaj, instead of wasting his time, immediately said, I have 7 days. Very good. At least I have 7 days notice. Some people do not have notice that they are going to die. How many of us would be so fortunate to be told that we have just 7 days? Most of us won't see death coming from the corner. We will not see Yamaraj overtaking us. Insurmountable eternal time impossibly overcomes. Srimad Bhagavad 1:13-17 says. So when death comes, Yamaraj has no mercy. Yamasya karuna nasti. He will just come. You can't argue with him. You can't bargain with him. You can apply for extension of time, right? Nothing. If you are going to die, you're going to die. So these are all very important points to understand. See, another important. Remember, Krishna is auspicious. See, for us, dying is inauspicious. But for Vaishnava, remembering Krishna is auspicious. Not remembering him is inauspicious. This is our Mangal. Otherwise, in this world, everything is inauspicious for us. When someone scolds us, says something harsh to us, we say it is Amangal. But the real Mangal is to be in devotional service. It's a very good pastime of Akbar and Birbal. One time, Akbar was walking down the street and he was passing by some people. And there was a tailor he was suing. Akbar looked at the tailor and when he looked at him, he turned. But he did see there was a pillar in front of him. So he banged into the pillar. And at that point of time, his face was hurt. So immediately all the people around him, the courtiers, they asked said to Akbar, my lord, what happened? Something so inauspicious happened that you had to bang yourself and become hurt. So Akbar was a bit perturbed. He said, Yeah, this happened because I saw this man's face. I saw the tailor's face. Moment after I saw him, I banged into the pillar. So what should we do, my lord? Akbar said he should be punished. Tomorrow the tailor should be hanged. No, Birbal just came after the morning walk and he overheard the conversation. And he called Akbar and said, my dear king, why is it that this man must be hanged? Akbar said, because anyone who sees him is going to be in trouble. That's how inauspicious he is. So my duty as a king is to eradicate all inauspiciousness in the kingdom. And Birbal started laughing. He said, Akbar, why are you laughing about this? I think you are mistaken about who is auspicious and who is inauspicious. Akbar asked why. He said, my lord, I'm just thinking of this man. You just saw his face, and after he saw your face, tomorrow he is going to be hanged. How much inauspicious your face should be. Someone just by seeing you can be hanged the next day. The most inauspicious thing in this kingdom is you. And therefore, by your logic, you should be hanged. But then realize that this is foolishness. So we look at something and say this is inauspicious, this is auspicious. The only thing that is auspicious is in any condition is remembering Krishna. So this is what we have to think about. So Vidura, instead of participating in the horrible war, he went on pilgrimage. In the same way, even Vibhishana, he also was giving good counsel to Ravana, but he did not listen. Ultimately, he left Lanka and took shelter of Lord Ram. So this attitude will help us to handle all ups and downs, just like Vidura and Vibhishana, in a mature manner. So what we should do, let us learn this important lesson from these Mahatmas, that when we are faced with such difficult situations, we should simply leave the place without contraction. We should not try to force our opinion on others. Instead, what we should do? We should take shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna, pray for them, and leave the scene. Take shelter of Krishna, pray for them, and leave the scene. So time is of essence, so I need to stop here. A lot of things to be said. We'll stop here. Thank you, Unispirits Madaris, for giving me this opportunity to glorify Krishna. Vancha kalpatarupicha kripa sindhubayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo. Hare Krishna, Purus Mataris. If you have any questions or anything to share, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams. Hare Krishna.